Hello, everyone, and this is Alan Davidson, and welcome to yet another interview with Evolutionary Mystic Masters. And this is a little series that I've actually been doing with the fabulous, the talented, the extraordinary Miss Jondi Whitis. So hello, Jondi, welcome.
Well, thank you. With that kind of lead up, I'll come here every day.
All right. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about Jondi in that we're talking about EFT tapping and emotional overwhelm today. And she knows a little bit about what she's talking about when it comes to EFT tapping. She is on the trainers board of directors for EFTi, EFT International. And she is a master trainer of trainers. So she travels all over the world training people how to use this particular energy medicine technique for extraordinary results, and particularly certifying people who want to help other people, either professionally or even as lay people who want to help. There's certain protocols you have to have in place to be successful and to deliver the promise of what EFT tapping can deliver. So Jondi, that said, welcome, my dear.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, thank you. So, well, one, you live in the greater Manhattan area.
I do.
And
we know a thing about stress or two.
Yes. And speaking of high level stress, you also, in a previous lifetime, had a successful career in the television industry.
I did. I was a film and television producer, and as such, that's sort of a headache every week or month, depending on how long the production is. And so it's a very high stress pressure cooker organizational structure, much like a lot of people who work with a great number of people trying to get something very specific done very quickly. Sounds like almost everybody's job, doesn't it? When I put it that way.
But, I just imagine, one, the huge responsibility and the intensity of the stress that you talked about, just from the deadlines and obligations, but then you have other people that you get to work with and manage, which, who, shall we say, some of our beloved actor friends are prone to emotional overwhelm and maybe a little high drama on their own. So
maybe just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit.
So can you give me a little story that sort of encapsulates what we're talking about by emotional overwhelm here? So,
well, and maybe this will be entertaining for folks. I'll take it and say, if I had had this tool way back in those days, I could have much better managed not only my crew and my crew chiefs, but also my talent, because they routinely suffer that kind of emotion, especially those people who are actors, because they're going out to do a specific job in front of a lot of people under a lot of pressure. And sometimes that causes a lot of overwhelm. And so what happens is very, I think, near and dear to everybody's heart. So that perhaps your props guy is busy chewing Rolaids all day long because everything keeps changing and the pressure is on them, right? But it's not a far walk in the park from Rolaids to maybe branch water, maybe a hip flask, maybe a little snort here and there. And everybody knows what I'm talking about on some level, right? A pain reliever, which was designed to relieve something short term that was stressful, has been now employed for chronic stress or sudden overwhelm. That isn't it funny how that sudden overwhelm starts happening kind of every week and then every day and then several times a day, right? We get used to everything. We're really adaptable. Unfortunately, we'll get used to overwhelm and how to manage it, right? And so this is why this tool is so fantastic. Right now, everybody knows somebody who is in trouble with a coping mechanism gone awry. In other words, the solution they found to emotional overwhelm has now become a problem.
Right. Well, and as a meditation teacher, the metaphor that I love is a tea kettle. And because most of us as human beings, unless you happen to have a fully enlightened and fully embodied parent or teacher, we're not taught to presence our emotions and let the energy move through our bodies. And
Right.
so we spend a lot of time suppressing and repressing and stuffing, and then when that becomes too intense and painful, then those behaviors, all those anxiety management, emotional management behaviors you just talked about come in.
And this is where the wonderful crossover with meditation and mindfulness comes into play, because we don't, unless we know what that is and have developed a practice around that, we are, chances are good that we are suppressing or denying or pushing away from us discomfort. And those may be sensations, they may be emotions, they may be just a sense of too much,
Right,
right? And so this is how we come together, you and I, and
right.
all those people in those disciplines, for learning what that is,
Well,
energy and motion.
well, and for those of you that are meditators, the thing that I know, when I talk to people who, do you have a regular meditation practice? They say, yes, I do, but gosh, sitting alone on a cushion or a bench with that voice in my head going blah, 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 blah. Well, the thing that I've realizes that it is those static emotions in the body that drive the intensity of those voices. And so by clearing those emotions to a nice neutral space, it takes the wind out of the sails of those voices in our head. So this is very applicable whether you're out in the real world dealing with really intense emotions, or you really want to use it more subtly in a meditation practice. So.
Well, I think what you're talking about that was taught to me was you got to name it to tame it, right? So in order to name it, I have to just sit with it for a moment to find out what that is, right? I have to describe it, and this is one of the things EFT does very well, and as a lovely integration with sitting with something or becoming more mindfully aware of something, because EFT wants you to get specific. That's how you name it,
Right.
right?
And so, you certainly use an example of maybe some of your technicians in television. Do you have another story of,
Absolutely.
of emotional overwhelm to sort of give people a real sense of how this shows up in their own bodies in their own life?
Absolutely. And this is an amalgamation of several things I've heard lately. This is lately, right? I seem to know a lot of nurses, holistic nurses, people who are working within hospital situations, and routinely that's a pressure cooker, because think about it. I mean, what's a film or a television show next to somebody's life or death situation? And now you do it all day long. Life or death, life or death, life or
Eh,
death.
The patient and then their families, which
And
are
and I'm even talking about the workers themselves,
right, right,
right? Because they're suffering along with you, or they're stressing along with you, and it's their job on the line too,
right.
right?
So if you could, without giving us a demonstration, because there are lots of videos of you giving demonstrations along with many other people, but I want to just say, in the framework of an EFT session, whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's an hour, how do we take a overwhelming emotion and
Yes.
laser focus on it and take it to that nice, peaceful, neutral place in the
Well, get ready. This is the Mississippi girl,
body?
okay? All right. The first thing that I'd recommend that you do is just say whoa. So whatever your version of whoa is, it's like whew, phew, whoa, oh my gosh. Or if you're in Brooklyn, it's like whoa, right? But
Well,
the idea is just
yeah, if you're from, New York.
exactly. But the idea is you stop, right? Just whatever that is to you, stop for a moment. That's where you start putting it to the hand, as I say. Just use this sound or this expression alone. You don't have to go deep into investigation. Whoa. Oh, man. Whoa. What is that? Maybe this is the point where you just want to talk through it. This is conversational tapping. It's not classic tapping, it's conversational tapping. What is this all about? That's big. That's huge. Oh my God. This is relentless. I just got to take a minute. Just going to take a minute. I guarantee you, Alan, by the time you get to your fingernail bed points, which I love, things are starting to settle down. Just that amount. And this is the point of my saying it so quickly and so casually to you. It's the people's tool. It's for everybody. And in the moment, you can start feeling better fast,
Right.
right? And if you will develop a practice, if you will come and learn a more sophisticated version of that. And what do I mean by that? I mean more useful, more complex, more comprehensive, so I can use it in my everyday life or my work. If you'll come,
Right.
we can teach you.
Right. But what you just demonstrated, just the breathing, the tapping, the sort of the questioning, what is this?
Yes,
That alone will help shift any kind of overwhelming state and help start to move the body back to homeostasis, to balance, to stability.
absolutely.
But then what I'm hearing you say is, okay, so here's one intervention I can do for myself, or I can even share that with a coworker or with a friend or family member. But then there are other protocols where you can really go in and learn the art and the science of EFT tapping, and then be much more effective and take an overwhelming emotion to that real still point of peace in the body.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better myself. The idea that we are taking a moment or mindful moment or a moment to take 5, to breathe, whatever you call that, that's where the healing starts. That's where the re-regulation or decompression, whatever words you have for that, that's where it starts with you taking that first step. And they call it emotional freedom techniques because it's a toolbox. There's so many. It's
Mhm.
not just this little thing,
Right.
like an iceberg.
Well, and I know that both of us work and train and certify people in the helping traditions
Yes,
and healing traditions. And so, when we talk about emotional overwhelm, that is, there's so many professions that could use certification in EFT to help in the work. And you just listed a few of them before we started our interview. If you wouldn't mind sharing those again.
absolutely. And what we're talking about is integration. Integration with what you already know or do well, what you already love or do well. We're not talking about taking anything away from you. We're talking about integrating something new and very practical into your toolbox. Okay, that's number one. Schools, a great place. I'm going to be in a middle school soon. Who am I going to be talking to? Mostly the counselors who mostly have 15 minutes, maybe, to talk to your child during the month, maybe. So we need to get them more tools. And what's that like stressing out all the time about only having this much with a child who you know needs so much? Well, that's really hard on you too. Holistic nurses. Holistic nurses are busy trying to take the wholeness of a person, not just I'll run down to the pharmacy and get that for you, Ms. Jones, right? They have a wider approach of things that they're wrestling with. But let's say you're not. Now you are just wrestling with, well, you can't have it for this much time. And I know you're really upset. And now you're really starting to cause a problem. And I sure wish I had something to give you so that I could help you wait, so I could be in that moment with you and say, you're not alone and it's going to be okay. I've got something for you.
Right.
Right? Those are just two right there I can think of. But employee assistance programs, oh my goodness. HR, hello, HR. Your EAP programs are so much on the front lines these days because don't you see how many of your workers are late, not coming in? Monday's a terrible day. uh, Absenteeism is big, turnover is huge, job related attitudes, maybe Not good. And it doesn't matter how many employee of the month little stickers and stars you're going to give them. We're talking a much bigger view of your employee than that, and you can help them.
Well, and you mentioned veterans and or anyone dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and
Oh
anyone
my,
helping, people that are on the front line, helping us stay safe, helping us survive, helping us to live.
right? And we do have some programs, by the way. I also belong to ASAP.org, and we do have some programs that are for firefighters, first responders. We do have some that are in the areas of the giant forest fires. Those are still continuing to this day. Groups, how-tos, education, shoring up anybody who needs assistance while they go about their job or recovery from their job. We have them in Las Vegas. We just celebrated, excuse me, that's the wrong word. It just came out of my mouth. But what I meant was we just memorialized the worst mass tragedy that we've had at the hands of a lone gunman and ever. And this is still ongoing. People who still have to respond to things. In
Right,
Texas alone, we've just had some really tragic things happen. In Kansas City just the other day, all of these people need a way to take care of the momentary stress. That's more of an emotional first aid kind of tapping, but they also need to work out all those complicated feelings that they have been stuffing down or aside, just the way we did in showbiz till the curtain closes.
right,
Same, same, same. It wasn't lofty work, it wasn't life-saving work, but it's the same idea. I have to get through this, and now what?
right. And, I just want to point out to our listeners that you do have some experience. You spent several years working on a project to help people deal with the fallout of gun violence. And so that is something that you have been personally passionate about and
I
work
have been.
towards.
And also, yes, I have, and also with veterans. Two of the seminal studies in the EFT research canon of studies were on veterans, and I was one of those people that was lucky enough to participate in that. And so there too, we're dealing with people primarily at that point that were Vietnam era people who still carried that every day and every night, and
Right.
I've seen it work.
Right. Well, fantastic. Well, Jondi, I know that I could talk to you for a very long time, but our 20 minutes is up. So thank everybody for hanging in there with us and getting this far. And so I do want to tell you that Jondi is coming to Houston
Yes.
on November 1st through the 3rd of this year. And she's going to be doing a level 1 and 2 certification where she will be helping people that just want to know about EFT and tapping and use it better for themselves in their lives, and for those who want to be certified as professionals in the EFT tapping world. This is the first step that you would take. So it's open to everybody. So
Right.
whatever your interest is, and if you just want to take it for yourself, great. If you want to take it to help your family and your circle of friends, great. If you are a helping person that wants to use it professionally, then this is a way to begin to do that and to get certified if you choose to take that route. Anything you
Absolutely.
want to add to that?
Well, that you don't have to know what it is yet that you choose to do with it. If you're curious and you have heard enough about it, or you've been lucky enough to try it, and you say, I want to know more about this, you don't have to know what you're going to do with it to come, experience, learn more. It's hands on, it's very practical, and you will experience it for yourself. You'll be the person who decides what you're going to do with this fabulous tool set out in the world.
The one thing I want to add, Jondi, is that you and I could go to YouTube. Anybody could go to YouTube and research EFT or tapping, and there are going to be literally thousands of videos that are going to come up.
True. True.
And there's a lot of good work out there, and there's a lot of people who, shall we say, are less than masterful in
Yes.
their understanding and their practice of EFT tapping. And to me, the promise of someone who really understands the art and science, the protocols of EFT and tapping, is someone that can help take any intensity of an emotion, a sensation, a pain, an experience, and take it down to baseline, to zero.
Absolutely.
But also in the right hands, you can also then move from just taking the edge off an emotion to going to the real source of that story. And it really does take knowing the art and science to be able to get to the source of something and be freed of that particular circuit, cycle, pattern of emotion and energy
Right.
moving through your body.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it, because if lots of these things that are on there are well-meaning, I'm sure. But if you're just giving it a haircut, meaning you're just like taking the edge off, that's great for 2 minutes, but then it'll be back. Why? Because it's like allopathic medicine, actually. I'm just treating a surface symptom, but I'm not really getting to what is driving that. Why is that happening? What's going on? What thought or belief is driving that behavior? And that is what EFT and practiced hands is going to give to you.
Right. And that's the promise of EFT tapping. So, all right, Jondi. Well, thank you so much for your time, your attention,
Thank
your
you.
fabulousness, and your mastery. So,
No, thank you. I really appreciate the forum.